Hello, everybody. You've tuned in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance. Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the Indiana State Police Alliance. I want to thank them for their continued sponsorship of this show. I want to thank Tom Trial, the man behind the scene, our videographer for the Indiana State Police, putting us on YouTube each and every week. Make sure you go to the YouTube site and see some of Tom's work of our ISP road shows and other videos that Tom has put on there from past, and he's putting stuff on there every day. So it's a good place to go, to the ISP YouTube site. With me today is Detective Darin Odier. Help me with that, Darin. Odier. You just told me that. Detective Darin Odier with IMPD. So give me a little bit about your past here, Darin. What have you done with IMPD and where you're at now?
I've been on the police department for a little over 29 years. I've done a variety of things. I was a patrol officer. I was a narcotics detective. I worked in the grand jury for several years. And for the past 12 years or so, I've worked crimes against children, specifically internet crimes against children.
So you started out with IMPD?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
used to be IPD.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say 29 years. That's been long enough that you were in the change, weren't you?
Yes.
Good. Has lived around here all your life? Started out somewhere else, or?
This has been my whole one-stop career.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, thanks for coming in today.
Certainly.
And talking with us about ICAC and the task force. And it's kind of this has been in the news. It's been very topic worthy of what we're going to talk about. But tell us a little bit about what ICAC is and what the task force does.
ICAC is an acronym for Internet Crimes Against Children. Okay. And there's a national task force made up of 61 national affiliates, of which Indiana ICAC is one of those. And within Indiana, we have 37 affiliates of local, state, and federal agencies that all participate together.
So do you have a local city, county, everywhere throughout Indiana? Then?
Everywhere. It could be Terre Haute PD, Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, Indiana State Police, FBI, Homeland Security.
Now, is that somebody that's continuously assigned to that, or is that, hey, we got a case over here, we need help with that, and somebody comes aboard?
It's a little bit of both. In some of the smaller departments, they don't have the manpower to dedicate to just do these cases, so they're kind of doing a little bit of everything, including ICAC cases. In some of the larger departments, certainly ISP and IMPD, we have dedicated investigators just working these cases.
So what do you guys do on a daily basis? What's your workload and how does that come about?
The workload is substantial,
as
you can imagine, and it keeps growing. And we do all sorts of things to investigate, prosecute, hopefully prevent sexual exploitation of children online. Here in Indiana, we're kind of known from some of the more high-profile things, Jared Fogle investigation, the investigation and arrest of coaches Nolan Brand, Kyle Cox, Marvin Sharp, gymnastics coach. But beyond that, every day we're out there doing things that the general public never really hears about or sees, related to child exploitation. So
your task force, is that kind of a unique relationship with the other departments then?
It really is. Unfortunately, historically, a lot of law enforcement agencies don't necessarily work and play well with others.
Yeah, we've all got egos, don't we?
Yeah. They don't share information. They don't corroborate on a lot of things. ICAC, specifically Indiana ICAC, is truly unique in that respect. And it really starts at the top from whoever the head of the agency is, whether it's an elected official, an appointed official, and then it filters on down. Because as we talked about manpower issues, no one agency has the manpower or the resources to combat this. We have to rely on each other to do what we need to do. We don't go to a search warrant with 3 officers. We go with 15 because we have a variety of tasks that are going on at that time. And so we really rely on our partners from these other agencies to bring their expertise and their knowledge to work together to do this.
So your cooperation on the scene and things, how does that work?
Well, for an example, before we do any search warrant, we'll have a briefing location where everybody that's going that day, that's available that day, will go. And they will already be assigned tasks, whether it's to make entry, to search the residence, to take photographs, to interview the suspect. We have our forensics people on scene. Everybody will know their role, and we'll just go over what everybody's role is so everybody has a clear defined thing that they know they're going to do. But what's interesting is I always tell people, if we weren't wearing gear that showed we're FBI or ISP or IMPD, somebody walking by wouldn't know what agency we're with. There's none of that interagency, well, FBI is only going to do this and ISP is only going to do this. We may have two people doing an interview, and it could be a county detective and a FBI special agent.
Right.
We just work cohesively together as a unit to do what needs to be done. There isn't that pull of who's going to get this arrest, who's going to do what. Oftentimes we may go there on what we think are state charges, and it turns out it could be something that could be charged federally, and we can get more time for the offender. Nobody cares. We want kind of the biggest bang for the buck and to do what's best for the victims.
So has that been noticed nationally? Indiana's model of what they do, has that been recognized nationally then?
Yeah, we're, not to toot our own horn, but I will.
Yeah.
We're kind of the national model for ICAC. And really that starts from two people, from Steve DeBroda from the U.S. Attorney's Office and Chuck Cohen, the commander of ICAC, captain with the state police.
Right.
And their whole model is cooperation. This is one team focusing with the primary mission of rescuing kids, helping victims, and catching monsters. And that's filtered down all the way through. And to give you some examples, 10 years ago when I was first getting into this, we would go into a house, we would take their computers, cell phones if they had them, send them to a lab, and 3 months later, we might know what was on them.
Right.
Well, we were one of the first to do on-scene triage. I believe we were the first in the nation to have a mobile forensics vehicle, which allows us to do on-scene triage, be able to interview the suspect in a controlled environment, and feed intel back and forth from here's what the forensics people are finding, here's what the suspect is saying in the interview, here's what they're finding in the house, and do a much better assessment of knowing on scene what we have. Now that's standard practice around the country. We have 3 mobile forensics vehicles in Indiana that we're able to use. We were one of the first to use electronic detection canines. Got a lot of publicity during the Jared Fogle investigation.
Absolutely.
When I was first contacted by a fireman, a partner in public safety, he said, hey, look, I've figured out a way to train dogs to find cell phones and hard drives and thumb drives, and all of us were kind of looking like, you got to be kidding me. We're being punked, right? But we saw demonstrations, and we took him on search warrants, and they found items that trained investigators missed, because micro SD cards can be
absolutely
incredibly tiny and easy even for seasoned investigators to miss. So now that's
standard practice.
If not standard, but it's becoming much more commonplace. Tactical polygraphs, where you're on scene and you offer a polygraph to the suspect post-interview. We're finding out a lot more information in those polygraphs that happen almost in real time than we would otherwise know if the suspect was necessarily lying to us.
Well, again, you're listening to the State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance. I'm speaking with IMPD Detective Darin Odier with ICAC, Indiana Crimes Against Children Task Force, and we're talking about their investigations. So how do you folks receive these investigations?
Well, a variety of ways. Every agency gets, typical police reports. Someone calls in and makes a police report of, my daughter was sending inappropriate pictures to somebody in another state, and then that's investigated. But beyond that, we work with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They're the people that make the milk crates that have the missing kids on them. But they're the national clearinghouse for child exploitation cyber tips. And so if let's say, for instance, Whisper, which is an online social media app, sees something on their server that they think is child exploitation, under federal law, they're required to report that. So they'll contact the National Center, and that will filter down to the local jurisdiction, and we will investigate that. And we talked a little bit about workload earlier. Indiana ICAC gets about 10 cyber tips a day. That's about 3,000 a year.
Wow.
And we have to investigate every one.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about something that you guys did recently. It was in the news. It was Operation Broken Heart. Mm-hmm. What did that do, and how were you guys involved with that?
That was an initiative by the Department of Justice, who were kind of under their umbrella, to see what kind of impact national ICAC had in a 3-month period. So from March through May, we kind of kept stats on exactly what was going on. Nationally, they made a few thousand arrests. Here in Indiana, we made about 75 arrests and prosecutor referrals, which is almost one a day over a 3-month period. And what's interesting about that, I think, is it wasn't that we decided, okay, let's go do more in this 3-month period. It's just a snapshot to show this is what we do all day, every day, and these are the numbers. Unfortunately, there's 10 times the problem out there that we can get to in a 1 month or 2 month or 3-month period. But it was good to show, this is a snapshot of what we do every day.
Are you finding this is spreading more internationally also?
Oh yeah, we've had lots of investigations that cross borders into Canada, into Europe, into Russia, all over the place. Anywhere there's internet, people can be exploited. Children can be exploited.
Does this work hand in hand? And this probably may be out of your realm also, but is this hand in hand with trafficking also?
There is some overlap, yeah. Occasionally we will find a case that develops into a trafficking case, and we will work with the people that work those investigations too. But it's all kind of part and parcel to exploiting children. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you deal with this? You're doing this every day, and you're seeing the stuff that's happening to our children every day. How do you deal with that mentally?
Well, the mental health component is really important. Law enforcement, public safety in general, we see things, we deal with things that the general public doesn't want to.
Right.
But working ICAC cases, it's even a subcategory of that. Law enforcement typically thinks nobody understands what I do, what I see, except other law enforcement. But with ICAC, even a law enforcement person can't imagine the images, the videos that we look at, that we're exposed to on a daily basis of children suffering the most horrific things that we can't imagine that humans are doing to other human beings.
Yeah.
So it does take a toll. We all kind of joke that we're all broken to a certain extent, and we really only kind of have each other, because nobody can process what we deal with other than those of us that do. But we all do this job by choice. At the end of the day, there's nothing better than rescuing a kid,
right,
putting a monster in jail for the rest of his life. And as tough as it is for us and on our spouses and our families, it pales in comparison to what the victims are going through every day.
Yeah, exactly. So what can the public do to help you with your investigations, or to help these children?
Be diligent. Parents need to be diligent, and by diligent I mean nosy. Know what your kids are doing. I don't care if they're 6 years old, 14, 17. Know what they're doing online. Look at their cell phones. Look at their devices. Hopefully you know their passcodes. Mm-hmm. I have teenage daughters, and just because I work in this field doesn't mean that my daughters can't make bad decisions, can't be manipulated or exploited online. We have to be involved in our kids' lives to know what's going on and know the dangers that they face. And then talk to people, talk to other parents. What apps change on a daily basis?
Right.
What are their friends using? What are their parents hearing? What are the parents seeing? It's all about communication and just know what's going on in the kids' lives.
So if somebody wanted to report somebody that they think may be doing something like this, how's the best way to get a hold of ICAC?
Call their local agency, and it will get to us. Yeah. There's also the CPS hotline, and those filter to us as well.
So we've got about a minute here. And the one thing that I hear also is that a lot of times it's their own family members. Is that true?
Oftentimes it is, yeah. Especially a lot of what we do is the production of child pornography. So it's actually recording either video or pictures of a molest. And oftentimes that's a family member or somebody that they know.
Yeah. Well, Darin, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We're out of time, but thank you for bringing this very important topic up and what ICAC's doing, and hopefully one day you'll be out of a job.
Hope so. Thank you very much.
Again, Detective Darin Odier. I guess I goofed that up again, didn't I? Odier.
Just Odier.
Darin Odier with IMPD. We'll catch you again next week on the Roadshow. Roadshow is out.